Hi, this is Dr. Gregory Sadler. I'm a professor of philosophy and the president and founder of an educational consulting company called Reason.io, where we put philosophy into practice. I've studied and taught philosophy for over 20 years, and I find that many people run into difficulties reading classic philosophical texts. Sometimes it's the way things are said or how the text is structured. But the concepts themselves are not always that complicated, and that's where I come in. To help students and lifelong learners, I've been producing longer lecture videos and posting them to YouTube. Many viewers say they find them useful. What you're currently watching is part of a new series of shorter videos, each of them focused on one core concept from an important philosophical text. I hope you find it useful as well. Question 27 of Thomas Aquinas Summa Theologiae Prima Secundae has to do with the causes of love, and Article 2 is titled Whether Knowledge, Cognitio, is a Cause of Love. Since in Article 1 Thomas was asking, is good always the cause of love, and he answered that in the affirmative, you might be thinking, well, knowledge is something good, so he's kind of treating a particular kind of goodness that then is a cause of love. And that's not completely off base. But when you look at this particular article, particularly beginning with the objections, the arguments against the position, you notice that there's a worry here, particularly in Article 2. Can we love something if we don't actually know it all the way? What is the relationship between love and knowledge? Don't we have experiences of loving, for example, somebody without knowing them entirely, or loving some things because of their effects on us without fully understanding what they are? So this is an important article to work through in order to understand Thomas's views on love and its relationship to our cognitive faculties, we could say. So objection 1, he says that it would seem knowledge is not a cause of love. Why? Because it's due to love that we seek out something, that things are sought, quaeritur, that we look into them or try to get our hands on them. Some things are sought, he says, without being known. What would be an example of that? Well, what he calls the sciences, scientiae, right? Now, these are higher forms of knowledge. So he's going to use rhetoric as an example there, but we could think metaphysics, we could think psychology, anything that we want to place under the rubric of disciplinary, systematic knowledge of things. So if we already knew the science, we wouldn't have to learn it. So we seek it out without knowing it already. And so knowledge in that case is not the cause of love. We love the thing and then we come to know it. The priority is reversed. Objection 2, which he's going to discuss at considerable length in the reply, is kind of along the same lines. To love what we know not seems like loving something more than we know it. Because we love it, but we don't know it, right? So greater love than knowledge. Some things are indeed loved more than they're known. Prime example of that, God. We don't actually know what God is in and of God's self, but we can love God. As a matter of fact, even the people who spend all of their time and their life trying to understand God, Thomas says, well, you're not going to ever arrive at comprehensive knowledge of God. So, that seems like something we can love, but we can't know God in himself. So, in that case, knowledge is not the cause of love, once again. The third, if knowledge were the cause of love, then there would be no love where there's no knowledge. But we know that there is a kind of love in all things. even things that don't have consciousness, or which are at the level of the brute, non-rational animals. They don't have reason. They can't have knowledge in any true sense, but they love nonetheless. So if there is love in all things, but there's not knowledge in all things, then knowledge can't be the cause of love. So Thomas is going to address this by bringing up, to the contrary, Augustine proves none can love what they don't know, nesciat, right? What they don't have any knowledge of. And you notice I use the word any there. This is going to be really quite important. Do we always know things in the same way, to the same extent? The answer is no. And you can actually know that by consulting your own experience, can't you? So here's his general reply, and then we'll look at each of these objections in turn. So he reminds us that the good is the object of an appetite, either the sensitive appetite or the will, as apprehended, apprehensum. Now, notice the term he's using there. It's not as cognized, it's not as known through science, it's rather a weaker term. It is grasped in some way. We have an apprehension of it. So love requires some apprehension of the good that's loved. But it doesn't require science. It doesn't require comprehension. It doesn't require even necessarily full cognition. It needs apprehension. So he says, we can look at some examples. Bodily sight produces sensitive love. You see an attractive person, or you see a kind of fruit that you're super into, and you're like, I love that, We could use the other senses as well. And then spiritual beauty or goodness, we apprehend that, and that leads to spiritual love. And so he says, knowledge is indeed the cause of love for the same reason, same ratio, as the good is, which can only be loved if known, at least to some extent or in some way. So there's a general answer. How does this actually apply to these counter-arguments, these objections? So in the first one, it's about seeking out science, searching after it, studying it. So he says that a person who is seeking science is not entirely ignorant of it. If they were, then they wouldn't seek it. So he says they know something about it in some respect, right? And to say that he knows, praecognoscit. So it's not even cognoscit, prae, knows in advance, or there's a precognition of it, something about it in some way. It could be a general way, he says, or some of its effects, or even having heard it being praised or commended. So that's not to know it, perfectly, but to know it to enough degree to get the ball rolling. So your knowledge that you have that's going to lead to greater knowledge is a cause for you to love that science. Okay, that makes sense. Objection 2, he answers at considerable length, and he's going to make a really important distinction here. He's talking about the perfection, or being brought to its fruition, of knowledge and love. And he says, there's something that's required for the perfection of knowledge that is not needed for the perfection of love. Why? Knowledge belongs to the reason, and reason's function is to distinguish things that are united and to unite together things that are distinct by comparing them with each other. So, if the reasoning faculty and the knowledge that it possesses is really doing its job, it needs to know distinctly, singulatum, all that is in a thing. And the thing there is re, so it could be an individual object, it could be a state of affairs, it could be about some sort of generic thing. It could be anything that has to do with the sciences. And so what are these? He gives you some examples. Parts, powers, properties, right? So if I want to know what coffee is, I need to understand its chemical composition. I need to understand where it's coming from, how it's made, what its effects are on people. And lacking those sorts of things, I don't have the perfection of knowledge. I don't need that to love coffee, right? Same thing if I want to fully understand a human being, I need to know everything about their psychology. I don't need that to love them. The perfection of love, as he says, is going to be different. Love is in the appetite of power, and the appetite of power. Now, this is a really important little line here. The appetite of power regards a thing as it is in itself, in se. So it's enough for the perfection of love that a thing be loved, right? That you love the thing as it is, it's translated here, as it is known in itself. So in itself is in se, knowing the thing in itself. But notice that the word for knowing there is, again, apprehenditur. It's not scientia. It's not, comprehension. It's not even cognitio, or, the verbal form of it. It's apprehenditur. There has to be some apprehension of it, and that allows you to extend to the thing as it is in itself. So a thing that is loved more than it's known can be loved perfectly, even without being perfectly known. Thomas uses the sciences as an example for this. The sciences we can love through having a certain general knowledge of them. We know rhetoric is a science that enables us to persuade others, and that's what we love in rhetoric, even if we don't know the totality of rhetoric, right? Or theology. We could be like, well, theology is awesome because it helps us to understand ourselves and the world and God and how all these things are connected. You can say, okay, great. Tell me about theology. Well, I don't know that much about it. I don't know, but I love. Right? We can say this about a person too. Can you ever completely know a person perfectly? Probably not. Some people we can know better than others, but you can love a person perfectly. You can't know God in any perfect sense, but you can love God perfectly. So that is a way to deal with that. Finally, the third one, which has to do with this love in all things, natural love, as he's called it. This is caused by a kind of knowledge. It's not the thing that loves having knowledge. It's rather the thing that made that thing that way, namely God, that has the knowledge. Him who created their nature has the knowledge, and in a certain sense used that knowledge or implanted it. So knowledge, strictly speaking, is a cause even of natural love. It's not knowledge on the part of the lover in this case, as it is in the other cases, but it is certainly knowledge on somebody's part, the ultimate cause for Thomas Aquinas, namely God.